Today, we're going to talk about the incredible, almost unbelievable story of how a simple training exercise, something that was never even supposed to be a real product, accidentally kicked off the entire video game industry. This is the story of Pong. So, let's start with a puzzle. How on earth can a machine that's supposedly broken become the single greatest sign of its own success? It doesn't make any sense, right? Well, that paradox is at the very heart of this entire story. Picture this. You've just put your brand new invention, this prototype video game, in a local dive bar just to see if anyone will even bother to play it. A week goes by, and then you get that call, the one you're dreading. The owner's on the line and he says, "Hey, your machine's busted." So the engineer who actually built the game, a young guy named Allan Alcorn, he drives down to the bar, he's got his tools, he's expecting to find a bad wire or a fried circuit board. But when he opens up the cabinet, he sees the real problem. The coin mechanism was jammed solid because it was literally overflowing with quarters. We're talking more than 400 quarters, $100, in 1 week from a single machine. This broken machine wasn't a failure, it was an absolute phenomenon. But to really understand how we got to this point, we need to rewind the tape a bit. That overflowing coin box was way more than just a success. It was the payoff for a huge, huge risk. A risk that started when 2 engineers decided to leave their jobs and found a company with a wild new vision for entertainment. That company was Atari. Okay, so rewind to early 1972. Nolan, Bushnell, and Dabney felt they had a hit with their game Computer Space, but their boss was offering them peanuts. So they did what any ambitious entrepreneur would do. They walked. They started their own company, calling it Syzygy. They even landed a development deal. But then, a little snag. The name Syzygy was already taken. And the name they chose instead, man, it tells you everything you need to know about their ambition. Bushnell was a huge fan of the ancient Japanese board game Go, so he picked the name Atari. In Go, Atari is what you say when you're about to capture your opponent's pieces. It's basically like saying check. What a power move for a company name, right? So with Atari now officially a thing, Bushnell hired his very first engineer, Allan Alcorn. Yep, the same Allan Alcorn we just saw staring into that pile of quarters. But his journey at Atari started with what was basically a fake assignment, a task that was never meant to see the light of day. Bushnell had seen a really primitive tennis game on an early home console, the Magnavox Odyssey, and he thought, that would be a perfect warm-up for the new guy. So he told Alcorn that they'd landed this big contract from General Electric to build a simple tennis game. It was a total lie. It was just a low-stakes way to see what the kid could do.
But here's the thing. Alcorn didn't just complete the assignment. He made it brilliant. He found cheaper ways to do things, like using simple circuits for scoring instead of an expensive dedicated chip. He made the paddles simple rectangles. But the real stroke of genius, the thing that made the game so addictive, was his idea to have the ball gradually speed up the longer a rally went on. He basically invented a core concept of game design, completely by accident.
So after about 3 months, this little practice project was finished. And the team at Atari, they couldn't stop playing it. This wasn't just some tech demo. It was ridiculously, addictively fun. Bushnell quickly realized that this simple training exercise was way more compelling than the complex sci-fi game he'd been planning. They had an accidental masterpiece on their hands. So inside Atari, they knew they had a hit. The problem was convincing everybody else. They took their brilliant little game to all the established players in the coin-op industry, fully expecting a bidding war. The response they got was, well, let's just say it was underwhelming. Bally, the company they had to deal with, turned down flat. Their feedback? Too simple. It's not sci-fi. Midway just wasn't interested. Even Bushnell's old employer, Nutting Associates, took a pass. The old guard just couldn't see the future staring them right in the face. And that is why they ended up putting the prototype in that local bar. With every professional door slammed shut, their only move left was to just bypass the industry gatekeepers and take it straight to the people. They needed to prove that people would actually play this thing, which led them right back to that fateful, beautiful, overflowing coin box. So the proof from the bar was undeniable, but every single potential partner had still said no. This was the moment of truth for Atari. They had a proven hit that nobody in the world was willing to build for them. Their next decision was either going to bankrupt the company or change the world. So Nolan Bushnell, with the data in his hand, made a historic decision. He said, fine, if nobody will build our game, we'll build it ourselves. He declared that Atari was now pivoting from being just a design studio to a full-fledged manufacturer. It was a massive, massive gamble. Bushnell had learned a hard lesson from his earlier game, computer space. It was just too complicated for casual players in a bar. Pong would be the exact opposite. I mean, look at these rules. The instructions were so simple they could fit on a tiny sticker. In a noisy, crowded bar, you didn't need a manual. You just needed a quarter and 30 seconds to get it. It was frictionless fun. But to build machines, you need money, a lot of it. And back in the 70s, banks heard the words coin-operated machines and immediately thought of slot machines, gambling, and, the mob. After getting rejected pretty much everywhere, Bushnell finally convinced Wells Fargo to give them a $50,000 line of credit. And just like that, production was on. With that loan, the gamble was on. Atari started building and shipping Pong cabinets in late 1972. And the response wasn't just good, it was a shockwave. This simple little game, born from a completely fake contract, was about to become a global phenomenon. The scale of this success was just staggering. Atari sold over 35,000 official Pong machines. But their simple, unpatented design was kind of a double-edged sword. Soon, competitors were flooding the market with clones. We're talking an estimated 2 clones for every single official machine sold. In a weird way, that's the ultimate proof of success, right? Atari had created a market so massive, it was bigger than they could possibly control. You really can't overstate Pong's legacy. It pretty much single-handedly launched the arcade video game business. And crucially, its wholesome game, not gambling image made it acceptable in places where pinball machines were still banned. Then, when the home version came out in '75 and sold 150,000 units through Sears, well, that proved that video games had a future right in your living room. But the story has one last critical footnote. Pong was not a completely original idea. Magnavox, the company that made that Odyssey console, they sued Atari for patent infringement over their original tennis game. And knowing they would probably lose in court, Atari settled, paying Magnavox $1.5 million to license the patent. So we come all the way back to where we started. A fake contract, a simple design, a whole bunch of rejections, and one gloriously overflowing coin box. It all kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are the most revolutionary innovations not the most complex ones, but the most elegantly simple? What if the ideas that feel like mere training exercises are actually the masterpieces just waiting to be discovered?